All right, welcome to Sister Reach monthly social justice preacher series for the month of October. I'm Elise Salisbury, Deputy Director at Sister Reach. Sister Reach is a grassroots 501c3 nonprofit organization founded by Cherie Scott in 2011 in Memphis, Tennessee. Sister Reach supports the reproductive autonomy of women and teens of color, poor and rural women, LGBTQIA people, and our families through the framework of reproductive justice. Sister Reach's mission is to empower our base to lead healthy lives, raise healthy families, and live in healthy and sustainable communities. This is achieved through working by a four-pronged strategy: education, policy and advocacy, cultural shift, and harm reduction locally, nationally, and internationally. Today, our guest is Pastor Tiffany Adams. Pastor Adams is a sociologist turned theologian, spiritual teacher, pastor, and therapist. GLAAD, the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation, named her one of 6 South Carolinians accelerating acceptance for LGBT people. Having served on the board of directors for both South Carolina Black Pride and South Carolina Equality, she was honored with the Unsung Hero Award by the South Carolina Pride Movement and has been featured on the front page of South Carolina's statewide newspaper, on CBS and ABC Columbia, as well as on both progressive and Christian radio. She was also selected to present at HRC's Time to Thrive National Conference in Washington, D.C., and presented at the Gay Christian Network National Conference in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. In 2018, she introduced her private practice, Adams Family Wellness, to those who seek holistic, spiritual approaches to individual, couple, and family wellness. Pastor Tiffany Adams currently resides in Columbia, South Carolina, with her wife, RG, and their children, Andrew and Mackenzie, where they co-lead the spiritual community of the Way Worship Center, LLC. Please help me welcome our Social Justice Preacher Series preacher for the month of October 2021, Pastor Tiffany Adams.
All right. Thank you so much, Pastor Elise, for the opportunity to present the work that I do to the Sister Reach audience, client base, community, and everything. So when I was approached, it was actually from in response to the work I was doing with a young man, a 12-year-old young boy who I helped him understand the energy that is flowing, throughout his body and how to regulate it in different situations. And so Pastor Elise reached out to me and said, we want to hear more about the soul work and the spiritual work that you do in your practice and in your ministry. So I want to start by saying that first of all, I love the title Balance, Mind, Body, and Spirit, and how all of them come together. They have to come kind of coexist. They have to come together. We can't focus too much on one versus the other, and they need to be in balance. And just the work that I do helps to do that kind of balancing. I want to start by saying that I came into the knowledge of the need for spiritual healing, the mind-body connection, a long time ago, really, when I was a part of, it was a Pentecostal church, mainstream church, and oh my goodness, now maybe 20 years ago, a little bit over that, I came into my own sense of healing. And I was introduced to the concept of soul ties, which is now pretty common to a lot of people, a lot of spiritual people. But if this is the first time hearing about it, then of course, soul ties are created between multiple people, namely one-on-one, but you can have multiple soul ties with many people. I was introduced to it at a spiritual retreat. And at that retreat, they taught us about, it's rooted in scripture, it's rooted in the two shall become one, when we're talking about a marriage covenant. But in consummation, we know that during the biblical times, the marital agreement, people took part, they came together under a marital agreement arrangement, even a ceremony, but it wasn't official until consummation. We're talking about physical, sexual consummation, and the two shall become one. So the concept of soul ties, of course, is rooted scripturally in that, but even beyond that, you can have emotional soul ties, You can have sexual, of course, soul ties, and mental soul ties. So I went into that retreat with no understanding of any of this at all. I mean, I grew up in the church and nobody ever said anything about that, nothing about energy transfer or whatever. I think I knew enough about spiritual warfare or have a familiarity with the talk that I grew up believing, spirits would jump from one person to another and things like that. But no one ever really broke down what is happening when you take on the energy of somebody else. People will walk into space and say, "Ooh, I feel the heaviness," whatever, but there was no explanation tied to that. So I attended this retreat and they began to teach about this. And it actually led us through an exercise of releasing and breaking these soul ties. And that's actually where I got my freedom from childhood sexual molestation. And I was able to release every sexual partner that I had had up until that point, as well as the original perpetrator that first took advantage of me as a child. And so they led us through consensual soul ties and non-consensual soul ties, and that changed my life and my understanding. It wasn't until probably 15 years later that I actually began to teach and operate from that understanding. I had the freedom, that liberating moment for myself, but and I was able to share the information with other people, like about what happened to me, but actually teaching it and helping other people gain freedom from these soul ties. I didn't start doing that work until that would have been 24 years old. I started ministry officially 33. So yeah, 11, 12 years later. So the first introduction to it. And since then, gained a lot of knowledge and experience, study, wisdom about things like empathy and the fact that there are many people who are very spiritually sensitive. And when I mean sensitive, I mean the acuteness of your senses, and not just emotionally sensitive or quiet, things like that. You sense things more deeply and more intimately than other people. And so with that, just adopting a lifestyle understanding, you have to adopt a lifestyle of release and grounding. You don't learn about all of that, a lot of that in church. We talk about deliverance and even things like, depending on your church now, demon possession and releasing and things like that in that nature, letting it go, and we yell and scream. And I'm telling you, I'm speaking not as a critic per se, because I've done my fair share of spiritual warfare, and so I'm very well versed in that nature of it as well. But this work is more intimate. It's more in depth. It's not just casting out a demon. It's helping you uproot these spiritual blocks and clearing them out. So some of the work that I do and some of the work that my ministry does has to do with the mind. I'm actually going to hit each one, the mind, the body, and the spirit. So when we start with the mind, I just want to share with you just a little, just some tools and some techniques and some ideas that we operate in helping people gain freedom with that in that area. So one of the first things we seek to do in the area of the mind is identifying and acknowledging the narrative that I've agreed with. We all have grown up in different ways. We've had different life experiences, and the story that is told, or the story think of as our truth. Well, we all know that there are facts, and then there's truth. So even though you can have three different people experience the same situation, the facts are the same, but all three will have three different truths that they pull from it, three different perspectives. And so we do have the ability, and the work that I do is giving people the power, the ability, and the perspective to tell the story, telling. So like for me, like for me and anybody who's ever been victimized, okay, there's really not of course, there's really not a flowery way or grass is, not as grass, but a silver lining way to, to kind of tell a story of victimization. But the power, the strength, the survivorship, the thriving, all of that, focusing, shifting your focus, not so much from what happened to you as to who you were, who you are as a survivor, okay? Healing the hurt, healing the pain, addressing, not denying what happened, but taking and shifting my focus into I not just survived, I overcame, shifting the language from victim to overcomer, victim to I conquered, victim to now I'm a person who can teach and help and save and rescue other people. And the Bible talks about renewing our mind. And you do have to get to a point where you think completely differently, of course, through Christ, but you think differently, and you begin to see situations as God sees them. One of the wonderful things about our Creator is that God has the ability, and gives you the ability, if you seek that, that level of understanding, to see things from what my wife calls an aerial view, an overview, and to see that all things, if you submit it to him, all things will work together for the good of those who love him, who are called according to his purpose, and you are called according to God's purpose. So it will all turn out in a way that will benefit you and others around you, okay? That's just not me being just psychopositive, but literally it will work out in a way that if you submit it to him, that will be of most good to everybody, and as most people, as many people as possible. So we got to see situations as God sees them, and kind of pull ourselves, our own singular situation, out of it. And the world will have you only focus on the negative. And so what we do, what I do in my practice is I allow people to talk. We don't hide from issues. I have an approach, of course, that doesn't just cut the wound open and lay it raw and things like that. We go at your pace. However, we don't shrink back from the hard conversations, because we are digging up roots. If you do not cut it at the root, all right, then it can regrow. And so a lot of times when people are doing soul work or doing any kind of mental work, we kind of stay away from where it originally started. And for some issues, it starts even before childhood. It starts in the womb. It starts in your ancestry. It starts in your lineage. And so I've met a lot of clients who, it's not that they have gone through, they're experiencing things within their bodies and within their minds that are not theirs. That's the biggest thing that, and it's a freeing thing too, but it's the biggest thing when it comes to understanding how spiritual work works, is that, like the Bible, some Bible teachers will tell you that when God sees us, he sees us as one race of humanity and one long line. And in the Bible it talks a lot about posterity and generations and lineage and things like that, and this is going to be blessings that will just kind of and punishments that will just go over and over and over down through the ages. And so that also gives us the framework to understand that we have, especially as people of color, we have generational pain that a lot of times clinicians don't know how to deal with. A lot of spiritual or religious leaders are still angry themselves about our shared experience, especially as African-American people or people of color, period, within America, have been victimized, have had to endure genocide, certain heinous acts that have been handed down within our spiritual DNA. And we make sure that you understand that a lot of the heaviness that you carry may not be because of your individual experience. Sometimes we feel overwhelmed, especially as people of color, women of color, men of color. And it's not because your life has created that. But when you stack up the many generations that have gone through so many things, certain fears that you think are irrational. And so you come back from the doctor with a diagnosis of anxiety, and It's not that you have any reason to be anxious, but generationally, there's a fear factor that has been handed down from great grandparents to grandparents to, I mean, you think about it, we've got the slave trade, we got the civil rights movement, we got all these different, now we have police brutality. And so for people of color, period, there's a whole lot of uprooting that we have to do in order to heal. So I'm definitely not trying to add additional heaviness. It's really hope. A lot of people walk around, again, unexplainable pain, unexplainable mental illness. And I'm somebody who I absolutely believe that I'm called to help in the healing process for people who are mentally ill. I myself was diagnosed with major depression when I was 24 years old, and I spent some time in an in-house facility and on suicide watch. I was 10 weeks pregnant with my son. And so it just gotten to a point with depression. And it was undiagnosed anxiety, but I believe now I know what I know. That was early on with the diagnosis of anxiety. It had really hit the scene like that. But now everybody's claiming anxiety. So, but when I look back, I'm like, yeah, I'm sure that I suffered from, I had panic attacks and, anxiety attacks. And so that was going on in my life at that time. And I had been dealing with that for many, many years. So it got me to the point where I didn't want to be here. And one actual time, I checked myself in, or allowed myself to be checked in, so that I could get the help that I needed. Because when I got to the point where I was 10 weeks pregnant and I didn't care whether or not either one of us made it, it was time to seek some help. And so there again, I had to do a lot of forgiveness work in there. And I'm appreciative of the people who were in there, who were spiritual people who helped me forgive. I'm sitting here in this institution, ready to be gone, ready to exit this place called life over some decisions that I had made poorly in my 20s, but they were able to help me see unforgiveness of my father for not being there and who he was. It was incredible to know that this has root in that. That's the kind of work that I do, where you may think that things aren't even related, but there's a block. And so we dive down into that block because you're carrying something. We are energetic beings. When I move into the thought about the body, we are energetic beings, And so like Julius Mayer said when he discovered the law of conservation of energy, which we now know as the first law of thermodynamics, that energy can neither be created nor destroyed, only converted from one form of energy to another. Then we understand that it doesn't go anywhere. When we have poor boundaries, we exchange energy, we take on somebody else's energy, we give our energy to someone. It can be draining on you and on another person. In my studies, I've learned that, and some of you already may know, that we have like a 15-foot energy field or bubble around us, roughly 7.5 feet this way, 7.5 feet that way. And if you spin around, it'd be like a 15-foot energy bubble or field around you. So think about how many people. Now, of course, COVID helped, and social distancing helped keep you kind of outside of the energy overlap. But think about how many people you come into contact with that come within your energy bubble. So as soon as they come into but maybe 7.5 feet away from you, once they come into that, their energy, you're exposed to their energy, good, bad, or otherwise. For those of you who are especially sensitive, you can walk into a space and feel it. Oh, it feels heavy in here. Oh, I feel so much joy in here. Oh, it's so draining in here, and leave out. That will make you think that you have a social anxiety. It's not that you have a social anxiety. You like people. You like being, perhaps you are extrovert, but your senses are in overload because you are you're an empathic being. And when I think about one thing that I teach a lot of empaths. I've been doing empathic work for a long time. when they ask, they think of it as a gift curse. And I say they because I'm an empath, yes, but I'm not as sensitive as many of the ones that I've worked with, my wife included. And so, yes, not a social anxiety, and it's not that, this is a curse. Some people say I say it's a gift curse, because it can be very draining if you don't understand it. It can be very daunting, when you feel helpless against it, constantly finding yourself going into environments and feeling as though it's too overwhelming or things like that, and having to leave. But I train empaths, and so I help them understand that you have been given the ability, like before Pastor Elise, before we started this, she was talking about understanding the difference between a prophet and an empath, and that one can be the other, but that doesn't necessarily mean that every empath's a prophet, every prophet's an empath. So understanding that as an empath, your gift, you've been given that gift, the discerning of spirits. You've been given that gift to be able to minister to people. I say this to the ones that are in my ministry. You've been given the unique gift to be able to minister to somebody's need without them having to articulate it. Because sometimes people can't, they're not ready to, but they need the help. They don't know how to put words on what they're feeling. But they need the help. They want the work. Some people have walls up, and you need to know how to approach them without drilling them. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? I know something wrong with you. And people aren't at the point of telling you, what's wrong with them. An intercessor, and an empathic intercessor is a giant in the prayer world, because you have been given, it's a very delicate, sacred gift. You've been given spiritual insight, like literally sensitivity to other people's energy and what they're feeling. And so it's a sacred trust that someone who is spiritually sensitive has. And you do need the knowledge, you do need the training, the equipping to properly operate in that gift. Now, yes, of course, God can just give you the knowledge, the wisdom, and the ability, but I would recommend that anybody get the tutelage that they need, the training they need, the classes or whatever they need to be able to fully operate without draining, because it is possible. I train many empaths who now have even if maybe a mastery of their gift, but definitely a comfort in knowing when to and how to shut it off, open up, how to close off, how to release, how to give it to, how to give it to God, how to tap in, how to tap out. And so you're not so overwhelmed. To think about it, if you are a spiritual empath, you're someone who's very sensitive, and you can, you feel people's energy all the time. It can be overwhelming. And if it's repeated, boom, soul tie, just like that. And whatnot. So that's, again, some of the work that I do in working with people who are spiritually sensitive. One of the first things I ask someone when they feel as though they're overwhelmed is, who have you been around? What environments have you been in? Have you taken on anybody else's stuff? Because what you're feeling, it doesn't make sense. To them, it's usually, I haven't even been, why am I weeping all the time? I have nothing sad going on in my life. And so first things first is, who have you been around? Okay. Empaths, for those who are watching right now, mind your eye contact, eye gates, mind what you hear, ear gates. Okay. For those, some of you all, you think you've been told, or you may believe of yourself, that you are a germaphobe, or you don't like to be touched, when actually your gift is heightened by touch. So when somebody touches you, it's like your skin crawls, and it's not that they're icky and you just, you don't like to be touched. It's you feel people and you feel energy. And so a lot of times you don't want people to touch you, and you don't tend to hug a lot of people. That's your gift. Your gift is in you. You likely have a healing gift, okay? And so with that understanding and with that equipping, you'll know exactly who you're supposed to touch, who you're not supposed to touch, and to administer and let God use you for healing in that. So that's, again, a lot of the work that I do is helping people understand about energy transfer, that you're not supposed to go into every situation, especially ill-equipped, and how to release, how to pray things off of you, or to pray release to God, how to ground it into Mother Earth, and how to operate to remove energetic blocks or spiritual blocks. Okay, what is an energy block or a spiritual block? You can look this up. It's very common definition of energy blocks are those unprocessed wounds, residual energy from the unprocessed emotions, unhealed places, unprocessed beliefs, thoughts, and memories. They'll cause blocks. When we literally block a thing out, okay, it goes somewhere. Remember, energy can never be created nor destroyed. So when you have something that happened to you, a trauma, anything that happened to you, and you just think you're going to block it out, it doesn't just go out into the ethers, it stays in you. It stays in you. Some of the 5 most common blocks that I say colleagues, even though I don't know her, but she does the same kind of work that I do, Danielle Mai, or May, you can look her up, Danielle M-A-I, you can look up online. She's published a study that identified the 5 most common blocks that she's come to understand or become familiar with in her practice. And the first one is suppressing emotions and trauma creates a block with many of us, or most of us. When you suppress emotions or trauma, then a block is created in your energy field, in your spirit. You can tell when that has happened because there's like a sensitivity. It'll be no different if somebody had a physical wound that for whatever reason, no matter how long this wound has been there, it's still sensitive to touch. And you're like, that should have healed a long time ago, but it didn't. It didn't, because we refused to talk about it, we refused to go there, and we just wanted to pretend that it wasn't there. But when you touch it, it's still very sensitive. It's very easy to cry about. It's very easy to get you unnerved and defensive about that. Suppressing emotions and trauma creates a block. The second one, denying your true self. Denying your true self. I am in the LGBTQIA plus community and see that a lot. Denying my true self. I'm beginning to see that more as I do spiritual work. Within the church or even outside the church, I'm seeing that more as I'm coming into contact with more people who they don't believe according to anybody's religious model or faith practice, but they know God, and they've been ostracized for their beliefs and how they worship God. And so denying that for so long has created a block. When I tell you, that is a lot of the work that I do now, people who are wanting to heal from what we now call church hurt, but I mean, like, really, when religion and just trying to operate their lives within a religion that doesn't resonate with them. It's been forced upon them by generations, by family members, but for whatever reason, they didn't find victory or freedom in it. But when they began to, go into nature, when they began to worship God according to what they feel in their hearts, they meditate, whatever they do, that's where God shows up for them. And so reconciling that, but having denied their true self for so long, there's a block there that we have to get out and just kind of stir up and remove. Another one, the third one, says prioritizing your needs last. Okay. People, oh my goodness. Golly, as a cisgender woman, as a woman of feminine expression, I know personally, but you know what? This runs the gamut of anybody who's a caregiver or anyone who is a people pleaser, anyone who has been taught, even through religion, to put everybody else before yourself. We can get into the habit, mothers, of prioritizing your needs last and thinking that that's holy, and but it creates a block. It creates a block. I've worked with a number of people who cannot get into a place of self-care because that goes against everything that they've done and known to be holy up until that point. And so that's a block. That's a block. I have to literally assign people to take a day off or to take some time for themselves. There's a block there. Number 4, allowing other people's energy to overcome your own. Lack of boundaries, okay? Some of these things are very practical. It's not spiritual spooky, it's very practical reasons, but now we have to do some spiritual work because it's so deeply ingrained. And then the last one is becoming your diagnosis. Becoming that. I'm very passionate, which I know a lot of times I get a little pushback on this one. I do believe the Bible. I do believe that I am are the 2 most powerful words in creation. Absolutely. I am that I am. I am. When what you say, who do you say that I am? I am created. The word I am is are the words of creation. And so when we say I am, again, going back to what I said in the beginning, whatever I agree with, I agree to. What do I mean by that? When I agree with a word over my life, and please understand that you receive a word over your life from a doctor more than you do a prophet. Think about that. Think about that. And a block happens when you become your diagnosis. I'm going to push a little bit on this one. Okay. I live with diabetes is completely different than saying I am a diabetic. Okay. I live with, or I am becoming healed from, or I am overcoming this mental illness rather than saying I have or I am fill in the blank. All right. Now, like I said, we're kind of radical in our thinking and the spiritual work that we do. We really try to get at the core of where did that come from? When did you agree to it? Is that what you truly believe? Because you understand that when you become your diagnosis, or when you accept the whatever somebody has spoken about your situation, even moving away from diagnoses, you also agree with everything that comes with that. Okay, there are certain outcomes that come with saying I am this illness, or I have this illness. So when I do that, I'm accepting the future outcome of that. And so I get it with people and say, do you really want this? No different than Jesus. Do you want to be healed? Okay, well, this is what it takes. It doesn't take you to be rebellious or deluded or anything like that. Yes, this is a key thing about what I teach and how we live. Because not only do I teach these things, the people that are around me under my covering, we live this. We live this, and we're living pretty victoriously with it. But you have to, although I believe that everything has a spiritual root, once it manifests into the physical, we have to treat it in the physical. So please know, I know we're almost out of time, and I want to get to a point where I can interface with Pastor Elise and answer any questions. But once it manifests in the physical, you must treat it in the physical. Please do not take anything that I say as don't take your medicine, or don't don't do your physical therapy, or even therapy. I'm a proponent. The work that I do actually partners with your clinician. It actually partners with your doctor. So I'm that person that will help you gain your spiritual strength, knowledge, wisdom, freedom to partner with the medical work that you're doing, to partner with the psychological or psychiatric work that you're doing, so that one day, if you have the desire, you can be free. But don't stop treating what has already manifested, okay? Yes, sure. If it started in the spiritual, there's a knowledge you did not have. You didn't know to not agree with certain things. You didn't know to have to how to pray, or to how to operate with energy and things like that, to not let a certain thought take root, or a certain trauma to manifest in your body. But you didn't know that, and now it has manifested into a migraine headache or migraines. It has manifested into some kind of mental illness. It has manifested into a physical condition within your body. Okay. Please understand that once it manifests in the physical, you do need to treat it in the physical, as well as getting to that spiritual root. And so I want to, go ahead and hop off and bring this to a close and be respectful of time, but not without giving you one quick tool, and that is to, when you, like if you wanted to work on yourself and test about like the energetic blocks, when you're in your bravest moment, think of something that you haven't quite gotten over yet. You haven't forgiven, it's still a little sensitive. Allow yourself to be in that moment just for a few minutes. It probably won't take long before you begin to feel a certain uneasiness in your body. For some of us, we start getting a headache when we think about that issue or that breakup or that relationship or something that happened to us, or in our chest, you feel the heartache or indigestion or back pain or whatever. Touch that area. When it starts to surface, touch that area and say out loud what I feel. I feel a queasiness, or I feel the heartache. And then once you have identified that, you found the block. You found the block. You found the block, whatever it is. And then say, I release that. It's like no different than forgiving. I release that pain. I release that queasiness from my body. God, take it. God, take it. And over time, especially if you continue to do that, you'll begin to feel the flow, because something's not flowing. Sometimes you feel it in your legs, okay? And so lay your hands on yourself and speak to that thing and release it. Release it. That's just one little tidbit. Pastor.
Woo! I'm watching the comment section. I'm listening to you. There's so much around energy that you covered. The soul, the mind, the body, the symptoms of an issue or a blockage, like the different types of blocks. Yeah, so much amazing information. And there was a question in a comment that I know that you answered. And it was, can you give some wellness tools of how to deal with that being overwhelmed, right? The energy that we take in, as well as, like you also talked about, intercessors. Intercessors, can feel. So, therapists, they're taking in this information. What are some wellness tools or more wellness tools that people can use to release? And what you talked about also, purposefully releasing the information that we've received.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Water is my first go-to. Water, okay? Water, rivers of water. If you can get near a body of water, a physical body of water, ideal, okay? Water washes things away. Water carries things away. Water is a natural element, is of God, okay? God is in the water. So release it to God. Go and speak into the water, touch the water, and feel that moving out of you. Say, I give it to you, God. Wash it away. Wash it off of me. In the shower, I'll release in the shower and let it just go right on down the drain, okay? First of all, you got to have the faith that God is taking it away, okay? And that you're not holding on to it, all right? So God, I release it. It happens in the shower all the time. As the water flows off of me, Lord, allow these issues to just roll right on. Take it. Grounding, which is another word you'll hear. And people call it new age, but it's not new age, it's ancient wisdom. Okay, take your shoes off and get in your grass, in your land, whatever, and just stand there and let it go into the earth. Okay, the earth is of God, and so the earth is ground, and just let it go in. But you need to release it in your mind. Prayer, of course, prayer. Lord, this right here, intercessors. This is another pro tip, okay? Intercessors, pro tip. Pray as if you were the person. If you're an empathic intercessor and you are feeling what another person is feeling, this is literally standing in the gap. All right. I've taught a couple of people how to do this. My wife had to do this one time because she was literally feeling and going through what the person was going through. And she don't mind me talking about her stuff. She was taking her clothes off and stuff. And I'm like, what are you doing? But she was just like, I'm feeling like I'm coming out of my skin, And so I'm like, one, this is not you. But she was able to identify who it was. And I said, okay, come on, you're going to pray as that. If you're feeling what they're feeling for whatever reason, they can't speak it. Maybe they don't know what to to say, they don't know how to say it, but you are a trained intercessor. So, because I know I trained you, so you know how to speak to this thing, even if they don't. And so I said, it doesn't have to be weird. It don't have to be weird, but God, take this from me. Take this from me. Whatever it is I'm dealing with, God, remove this from me. This feeling that I'm having, instead of just praying for them, pray as them. Literally stand in the gap for them and allow that thing to be released off them. It works every time. Okay, because you have been given this divine and sacred insight into the person, and so pray as them, for them, as if you were them. And so that's another one. So water, prayer, worship, offer it up to the heavens, put on your favorite praise and worship songs and sing your heart out, stomp, run, shout, cry. That's another thing. Don't refrain from crying. Don't hold yourself back from crying. You're crying for someone, empath. You're crying their tears at times. Okay. So yeah, those are some tools to use to release that thing off of you. And if you want to release that water, earth, grounding in the earth, some people call it earthing, and worship and praying it as the person and releasing it to God.
You just took us to a whole nother level, Rev. You answered the question. I'm like, wow, like, okay. So there's this thing I thought about when you mentioned grounding, planting your feet onto the earth and releasing into the earth is so amazing to me. The interesting thing is that, I'm from the old church too, old traditional church, but they would tell us not to take our shoes off because what's in the atmosphere can get in our feet. But it's so amazing to hear you say what you're saying, because there are times where I've been on the beach and have been able to release. So I've gone to the river. And I remember one time this is when I first learned about energies, right? Putting a rock in my hand and releasing the grief that I was feeling into the rock and throwing it into the river, and walked away and felt absolutely free, right? Purposefully releasing, like you were saying earlier, the feelings that I had in that moment. But so much great information. But on the grounding part, you were talking about, again, putting our feet on the ground, and it makes sense as a release of energy, especially to those. Now, I'm not anybody's electrician or engineer, but when something has to be grounded, it breaks the energy, the power of the energy, right?
Right.
So it's amazing to hear you say that. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense when you say.
I had thought about that now.
Yeah, you said it. I was like, oh wait, that's how the grounding works when it comes to electrical things, right?
Energy.
I'm over here in this in the thing around, like you were saying, that the ways to release. Another thing you mentioned earlier was the 7.5 feet force field or bubble that surround us. Let me tell you, I've been set free today, because you can be in spaces where you're like, what is happening? Because you're feeling all of this energy. You leave home feeling great, and then you go into a space or you walk past somebody in a mall or the store, whatever. And like you said, they're in your space, right? And so you take on whatever that burden is or whatever that thing is. The energy that they're experiencing has been transferred to you. And you're like, where did this come from? You're crying and all out of sorts and can't figure it out. It's the transfer. It's the transfer of energy. And so, yeah, listen.
It's amazing. And Pastor, before when we, like I said, we were offline, you were talking about the difference between a prophet and an empath, and how, just coming into that knowledge. God revealed to me probably a few months ago that, again, every prophet isn't a prophet. You arrived there. Every prophet isn't a prophet. They are empathic, and they have gotten into your bubble. Yes. Because everything that's in my energy bubble are all of my thoughts, my dreams, my fears. Wow. It extends out of me. And especially like during COVID, if you got within, it's good that they told us 6 feet, because if you got within my 6 feet bubble, who was absolutely panicked about, then you panic, like I was good, I'm wearing my mask, I've got some gloves on or whatever I'm doing, but I happen to maybe get unknowingly back up and I'm within at least 4 feet of somebody, they're panicked. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, whatever. But how does that, what in the world am I? But prophetically,
Yes.
there are some people who have gotten close to you, and it happens in church all the time. Everybody's not a prophet. They're an empath, and they're in your bubble, and so they can see your momentum, or they can feel your momentum. They know something that's like, what? I don't know why. I love to be spooky. I don't know why I'm thinking this. I don't know why, but I'm seeing a move or whatever. And it's not that they're a prophet. They came into your bubble, and it's swirling all around you. You want to move, I want to move from here. And so they come up close to you and they're like, you know what? I don't know why, for some reason, I'm feeling kind of restless. Like I want to move. And you're like, prophecy, confirmation. It's like, no, they got in your energy bubble and you're vibrating so high because people are, scared of vibration and frequency nowadays. You're vibrating so high about that now they feel that, and they had no reason to feel that. And they step outside your bubble, they can prophesy a day for you. But we are very, it's just a lot.
Oh,
it's a lot.
I feel like there should be a part 2 to this conversation. There's so much there around energy. My son, he started talking about energy because he was, he's an avid reader. He reads all types of stuff. And I thought it was so awesome that he learned about, or is learning about, energy at such a young age. He's in his early 20s, but he's learning about energy at such a young age because there are certain environments that he will not go into. Right? Because he doesn't want to pick that energy up. But it's also what you said, amazing breakdown of intercessors and the prophetic. As I was a younger person, folks are, you might be a prophet, when you're able to express the atmosphere of what's going on in it. But then you learn, no, it's just that I need to protect my energy. It's not that I'm a prophet. I need to protect. Give me 7 feet. Give me 7.5 feet to be on the safe side.
She said, I know. Let me protect my stance. But the GOD said, but I don't have going on in my
Right. Because some things God don't have to tell you if you can feel them. But there's also another realm. That's why I said this may need to be a part 2. When we feel what some define or call the energy of our ancestors, right? That push in the back, and what Dr. Reverend Jeremiah Wright said when, he was talking at a church here in Memphis one Sunday, he was talking about, what you're feeling is the energy. The ancestors are the witnesses, right? The cloud of witnesses who are standing there cheering us on. And so also feeling that energy, right? The encouraging side of the energy of the ancestors who were here doing this very work before we got here. So it's let me tell you, it's been a blessing to my life today. And I see from the comments, I'm just checking for any other questions. But again, just understanding the importance of protecting your energy, of what do we call it in the church? Losing, what was it when you laid hands on several, your virtue?
Your virtue.
Right? That's church speak. Losing your virtues when praying or doing intercessory prayer and laying hands, that type thing, for those that's from the old school to understand that. And those who are spiritual, who have spiritual practices, right, where those things are the same. Yeah, some folks, they burn sage in their home. Some folks burn incense to release, right, energies or to push energies out of their homes. So it's a listen. Things been good to me. And I see the comments, and thank you so much. Just to be able to have such a liberating conversation where our community and the work that we do covers a lot of grounds, right? It's not just Christianity, but it's all the things that, all the spiritual practices, and those who don't have any, right? Many of us, if not all of us, still acknowledge that energy exists, right? That energy
Right.
is like you were saying, is neither destroyed. It isn't destroyed, right? It doesn't go
Or
away,
created,
but
yeah.
transfer. It exists in some form. And to be able to have such a liberating conversation about it is so amazing. I'm going to go back and watch this myself several times, because just some of the things you mentioned, like empathic intercessor, like we haven't been exposed fully that there are levels to this, right?
Right,
There are
right.
levels to this, even purposeful releasing, like I want to learn even more about what that means. One of the things you mentioned too, and I'll be done, the different uh, blockages we can have in our minds and emotionally and mentally, and understanding that some of these things aren't just because of the current conditions, right? Some of these
Right.
things, like you mentioned earlier, are results of pain from an absent parent or pain from a relation, where you really block out certain things around traumas that you've experienced, can't remember during a certain a phase of your life, or just total blockage of a certain time in your life. I've heard people talk about that. I can't remember when I was, between 9 and 15, and most of the time it's from some kind of trauma that they experienced in that time. So you covered so much, so much. You have any last
It's a lot.
notes you want to leave with us?
Well, again, just encouraging people to look into it, especially people who have been a little afraid, thinking that something is not of God or is demonic or anything like that. Like
Right.
you and I talked about, just even in this conversation, there are absolute parallels with a lot of these concepts in the church. We just call them different things. We had a different level of understanding. We didn't try to understand it. We just accepted it. That's what they called it or whatever. But out here, outside of the walls of the church, there are full explanations of a lot of these concepts and ideas, and it's ever evolving as people are learning more about it, and the veil is getting thinner, Pastor. And so the spiritual world is more, we've said it, but I don't know if a lot of us have lived it, that the spiritual world is more real than the natural, the physical world, and so when we begin to really understand that. I look forward to, more opportunities to talk about it. You really empowered me, because, before we came on, I'm like, I don't know how people take it. But people are ready for the conversation. And, we can talk about relationships. We can talk about cutting soul ties from past relationships and not carrying that into new relationships and those unknown things. We as women, oh my goodness, the divine feminine at times, whether you are masculine of center or you identify, in a more feminine expression or whatever, we have within us so many complexities, and we can take on, oh my gosh, so many things, and so being able to release those things regularly so that you know who you are without all these other attachments. So there's a lot there, and I'm committed to doing the work, and I'm a resource. So, I think I'm tagged in this. So if anybody wants to reach out to me, please do.
Yeah. And for those who, are there any, is there any contact information, like an email or something that you may have for folks who may have questions, those who may want to use your services, in whatever capacity that you have to offer? Is there any other way?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Tiffany Adams Global. Tiffany Adams Global. And if you go to my website, it's adamsfamilywellness.com. Yes, I know it's long, but adamsfamilywellness.com. And on the Sister Reach Facebook page, I know that I was tagged in the announcement of this. So please, you can find me there as well. But adamsfamilywellness.com, you'll see on that site that my services are very, they are geared towards the affirmation of LGBTQ people. But I have clients from all kinds of expression and orientation. But yes, I use that language. But I don't want anybody to go there and they're like, well, I'm not really LGBTQIA. Can I use her? Yes, you absolutely can. But I just wanted to make sure that my community was not left out, wasn't vague. So I'm very clear about that. But yes, adamsfamilywellness.com, or on Instagram or Facebook as Tiffany Adams Global. And I think it's the same, yeah, TikTok as well, Tiffany Adams Global.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much once again for joining us here at Sister Reach for our October Social Justice Preacher Series. It's been awesome learning balance, and that is absolutely what you paid us to work with: balance, being empaths, having this energy, and it's been awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us, those who are here. I see you, Champ, Ray, and Annette, all of those who are here joining us that's been on. Dr. Yu, thank you so much for your support. And we'll see you all next month in November for our November Social Justice Preacher Series. Thank you again, Pastor Adams. We absolutely are forever grateful for this series you've done with us. Hopefully, like I said, there will be a part 2. We'll let you all know, because it's just the beginning of this conversation. You all have a great day, and thank you again for joining us.